The arena was loud, but the moment he opened his mouth, the entire world went silent. Before we begin, I want you to imagine something. Imagine being laughed at your whole life for a dream that feels too big for your small town. Imagine carrying that dream across oceans with nothing but faith in your heart. And if stories like this inspire you, take a second right now to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because this one will stay with you forever. On a humid evening in a small fishing village in Cebu, Philippines, 27-year-old Mateo Reyes stood barefoot outside his family's tiny wooden home, staring at the fading orange sky. Mateo had thick black pompadour-styled hair he carefully shaped every morning with coconut oil, warm brown skin, deep-set eyes full of longing, and a slim but strong build from years of lifting fishing nets. He wore faded denim jeans, a white sleeveless undershirt, and a second-hand leather jacket he bought from a thrift stall because, to him, it looked like something Elvis Presley would wear. But in Cebu, people didn't see Elvis when they looked at Mateo. They saw a fisherman's son with a funny accent and a crazy dream. Ever since he was a little boy, Mateo would stand on overturned buckets by the shore and sing Elvis songs to the waves. His father, Ramon Reyes, a 58-year-old weathered fisherman with salt and pepper hair and hands rough as coral, would shake his head but smile quietly. His mother, Aling Rosa, 55, petite with silver strands tucked into a tight bun, believed in her son with a fierceness that could rival any storm. Anik, she would whisper at night, God gives big dreams to brave hearts. But bravery doesn't pay bills. When typhoons hit their village 2 years in a row, their fishing boat was destroyed. Debt piled up. Mateo worked double shifts at the docks, carrying heavy crates of fish from dawn until midnight. Yet every evening, exhausted and drenched in sweat, he would practice in front of a cracked mirror, holding a rusted hairbrush like a microphone. One night, his younger sister Sophia, 14, with long braided hair and bright hopeful eyes, showed him something on her cracked phone screen. Kuya, look. Auditions for America's Got Talent. Mateo laughed. America? That was a different planet. But Sophia didn't laugh. She started a fundraiser page without telling him. The village pitched in what they could: coins, small bills, prayers. His father sold his last remaining fishing net. His mother handed him a small wooden cross. Go, she said, tears shining. Show them who you are. Weeks later, Mateo stood trembling outside the massive theater in Pasadena, California. For the first time, he wore a tailored black leather jacket, dark-fitted pants, polished boots, and a red silk scarf around his neck, his tribute to Elvis. His pompadour was perfectly styled. But beneath the confident look, his hands shook. When his name was called, he stepped onto the stage. The lights blinded him. The judges sat before him, including music executive Simon Cowell, known for his sharp tongue and skeptical gaze. Simon leaned forward. And what's your name? Mateo Reyes, sir. From the Philippines. And what will you be doing for us today? Mateo swallowed. I will be singing Elvis Presley. The audience chuckled. Simon raised an eyebrow. Another Elvis. Those two words cut deeper than any insult Mateo had ever heard. The music began. A slow instrumental of Can't Help Falling in Love. At first, his voice was soft. Smooth. Controlled. The audience quieted slightly. Then he reached the first high note. And everything changed. His voice wasn't an imitation. It wasn't karaoke. It was rich, soulful, powerful, but uniquely his. It carried the ache of typhoons, the hunger of poverty, the warmth of a mother's faith, and the fire of a dream that refused to die. The laughter stopped. Phones lifted. Eyes widened. Simon's expression shifted from skepticism to surprise. By the second chorus, the audience was on its feet. Mateo moved with Elvis-inspired charisma, hip sways, subtle knee bends, but never in parody. He wasn't copying a legend. He was honoring one while becoming something new. Back in Cebu, the entire village crowded into a small electronics store, watching the live broadcast on a flickering television. Sophia held her mother's hand so tightly their knuckles turned white. Ramon stood still, jaw clenched, pretending not to cry. On stage, as Mateo hit the final soaring note, his voice cracked, not from weakness, but from emotion. Silence. Then an explosion of cheers. Simon stood up slowly, clapping. Mateo! I have seen countless Elvis impersonators. But you're not trying to be Elvis. You're bringing your own soul to it. That was extraordinary. Mateo's eyes filled with tears. But then something unexpected happened. One of the judges leaned forward, eyes shining. Mateo, you said you came from a small fishing village? Yes, ma'am. And your family is watching right now? Yes. She smiled. Then I think they deserve something special. Her hand hovered over the golden button. Mateo's heart stopped. You came here with nothing but a dream and a voice, she said. And tonight, you proved that dreams don't need permission. She slammed the golden buzzer. Gold confetti exploded from above like a storm of sunlight. Mateo dropped to his knees, sobbing as the audience roared. Back in Cebu, the village erupted into screams and tears. His father finally broke down, covering his face. His mother whispered, Salamat, Dios. But the journey wasn't over. The golden buzzer brought pressure. Interviews. Rehearsals. Critics online saying he was just another viral moment. The weight of expectations felt heavier than fishing nets ever had. One night in his hotel room, staring at the city lights of Los Angeles, doubt crept in. What if the first performance was luck? What if he fails next time? He called home. His father answered. Anik, Ramon said, voice steady, when you were little, you sang to the ocean. The waves never applauded. But you sang anyway. Remember who you are. Those words grounded him. In the live semifinals, Mateo didn't choose an Elvis song. He chose to sing an original piece, a heartfelt ballad about his village, about storms and hope, about leaving home but never forgetting it. He wore a simple white suit this time, hair styled but softer, no costume, just himself. When he finished, there were no flashy moves. Just truth. And sometimes, truth is louder than any note. He advanced to the finals. Whether he won the entire competition mattered less than what had already happened. His family's debts were paid through sponsorships. His village gained tourism. Kids who once laughed at him now sang by the shore with new belief in their own voices. In the final episode, Simon said something that Mateo would never forget. Talent can impress. But heart changes lives. Mateo, you reminded us why this stage exists. The camera zoomed in as Mateo looked into the lens, speaking directly to viewers around the world. If you have a dream, he said, voice trembling, don't wait for the world to believe in you. Believe first. And that is why this story matters. Not because of a golden buzzer. Not because of fame. But because a fisherman's son from Cebu proved that your background does not define your ceiling. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of your own dream, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because there are more stories like Mateo's waiting to inspire you. Somewhere tonight, a boy or girl is standing barefoot under a fading sky, holding a hairbrush like a microphone, wondering if their dream is foolish. Let them hear this. Dreams are not foolish. Quitting is. And sometimes, all it takes is one brave step onto a stage. The crowd was already restless when he walked out. A few people laughed. One man in the balcony shouted, "Not another Elvis." And for a split second, under the blinding lights of America's Got Talent, 28-year-old Filipino singer Daniel Cruz felt his dream slipping through his fingers. But what happened next, no one in that theater will ever forget. Before we dive into this unbelievable journey, take 1 second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because stories like this don't just entertain you, they remind you why you should never give up on yourself. Daniel grew up in a cramped 2-room house in Quezon City, Philippines. At 28 years old, he had sharp cheekbones, warm brown skin, and expressive dark eyes that seemed to carry both sadness and fire at the same time. His hair was thick, jet black, styled into a carefully sculpted pompadour inspired by Elvis Presley. He wasn't tall, about 5 feet 7 inches, but when he stood straight in front of a mirror wearing his thrifted leather jacket, he looked larger than life. As a child, Daniel didn't have toys. He had music. His father, Ernesto Cruz, 60, once a jeepney driver with tired eyes and thinning gray hair, used to play old Elvis CDs on a scratched stereo every Sunday morning. Daniel would stand on a plastic chair, gripping a spoon like a microphone, copying every move he saw on TV reruns. His mother, Liza, 57, a seamstress with gentle hands and soft features, would clap like he was performing in a sold-out arena. But dreams in poor neighborhoods are often treated like jokes. By the time Daniel turned 18, neighbors had stopped clapping. They started mocking. "You think you're American?" they would tease. "You think you're Elvis?" Daniel worked construction jobs during the day, his once smooth hands turning rough and scarred. At night, exhausted and covered in dust, he practiced in secret on the rooftop. The city lights of Manila became his imaginary audience. Then one evening, while scrolling through his old cracked smartphone, he saw an ad, "Auditions open for America's Got Talent." America. It felt impossible. But Daniel's mother quietly handed him a small envelope. Inside was money she had saved for years from sewing dresses. "Go show them who you are," she whispered. Months later, Daniel stood backstage in California. He wore black fitted pants, shiny boots, a deep red button-up shirt slightly open at the collar, and a tailored black leather jacket his mother had sewn herself. His pompadour was perfect. His hands were not. They trembled. When he stepped onto the stage, the judges watched closely. At the center sat Simon Cowell, known for his brutal honesty. "What's your name?" Simon asked. "Daniel Cruz." "From the Philippines." "And why America's Got Talent?" Daniel took a breath. "Because this is where dreams feel bigger." The audience clapped politely. "And what are you going to sing?" Simon pressed. "An Elvis Presley song, sir." A ripple of groans spread across the theater. Simon leaned back. "We've seen a lot of Elvis." That sentence hit harder than any insult Daniel had ever heard. The music started, "Suspicious Minds." The first note came out low and smooth. Not exaggerated. Not cartoonish. Real. People stopped whispering. By the second verse, Daniel's voice grew stronger, deep, soulful, with a slight rasp that gave it raw authenticity. He moved with controlled confidence. A subtle hip sway. A sharp turn. A knee drop that echoed classic Elvis energy, but his face showed something different. Pain. Determination. Hunger. The audience leaned forward. Simon's expression shifted. Daniel hit the chorus, and the theater exploded. His voice soared, filling every corner of the room. It wasn't imitation. It was reinvention. Halfway through the performance, he did something unexpected. He slowed the tempo. Stripped the instrumental back. Sang a verse almost a cappella, his voice trembling with emotion. It felt personal. Like he wasn't performing for judges, but for every person who ever laughed at him. By the final note, the entire audience was on their feet. The camera cut to his parents watching from home in Quezon City, tears streaming down their faces. When the music stopped, there was silence for 1 breath, 2 breaths. Then thunderous applause. Simon stood up first. "Daniel," he said slowly, "most people come here trying to copy legends. You came here honoring one and becoming your own." That was brilliant. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. Another judge leaned forward. "You know what I loved? You didn't hide who you are. You didn't try to sound American. You sounded like you." The audience cheered again. Then came the moment. "I think," the judge continued, hand hovering over the golden button, "that this is exactly why this show exists." Daniel's heart pounded so loudly he could hear nothing else. The golden buzzer slammed down. Gold confetti rained from above like falling sunlight. Daniel collapsed to his knees, covering his face as tears poured down. Back home, his neighborhood erupted into cheers. The same people who once laughed now screamed with pride. But success brought new challenges. Online critics said he was just a viral act. Pressure mounted. Interviews, rehearsals, expectations. Daniel began doubting himself again. One night in his hotel room, staring at the ceiling, he whispered, "What if I can't do it again?" He called his mother. "Anik," she said softly, "you were Elvis in your heart before anyone clapped. Remember that." For the semifinals, Daniel shocked everyone. He didn't sing Elvis. He sang an original song about his father's jeepney rides, about Manila traffic, about dusty construction boots and impossible dreams. He wore a simple white suit, no flashy moves, just raw emotion. His voice cracked, not from weakness, but from truth. The audience cried. Simon said quietly, "That wasn't an impersonator. That was an artist." Daniel advanced to the finals. Whether he won the entire competition didn't matter as much as what he proved. A construction worker from Quezon City stood on one of the biggest stages in the world and showed millions that your accent, your background, your poverty, none of it defines your worth. In the finale, Daniel looked straight into the camera. "If you're watching this," he said, voice steady, "don't wait for people to believe in you. Believe in yourself first." And that's the message I want to leave you with today. Somewhere out there, someone is laughing at your dream. Let them. Because one day, they might be standing up and clapping. If this story inspired you, if it gave you even a small spark of courage, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. More powerful stories are coming, stories that remind you that no matter where you start, you can rise. All it takes is one stage, one song, and the courage to begin. The moment the host announced, "Next up, a Filipino Elvis," a few people in the audience rolled their eyes. One man muttered, "Here we go again." And standing in the center of the massive stage of America's Got Talent, 26-year-old Rafael Mendoza felt every ounce of doubt he had ever carried rush back into his chest. But what happened next turned laughter into tears, and skepticism into a golden buzzer moment no one saw coming. Before we step into Rafael's journey, pause for just a second. If you believe in underdogs, if you believe dreams have no borders, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because stories like this deserve to be heard and shared. Rafael grew up in a small barangay near Davao City in the Philippines. He was 26, lean and athletic from years of helping his father load bananas onto delivery trucks. He had warm caramel skin, sharp jawlines, expressive dark brown eyes, and thick jet black hair styled into a dramatic pompadour he shaped carefully every morning using pomade he saved up to buy. When he smiled, there was a quiet innocence. But when he sang, there was fire. His father, Antonio Mendoza, 59, was a fruit vendor with sunburnt skin and a permanent stoop in his shoulders. His mother, Celia, 54, worked as a housekeeper, her long black hair streaked with silver and always tied into a low bun. They never had much money, but they had music. On Sundays, an old radio would play songs by Elvis Presley, and little Rafael would stand in the middle of their living room wearing his father's oversized button-down shirt, pretending it was a stage costume. He studied every move from grainy YouTube clips. The way Elvis tilted his head. The way he held the microphone. The confidence. The charm. But in school, Rafael wasn't charming. He was the Elvis boy. Classmates mocked his hairstyle. Teachers told him to focus on real careers. When his father's fruit stall struggled after a storm destroyed half their crops, Rafael quit college to work full-time. Dreams became a luxury. Still, every night after work, sweat-soaked and exhausted, Rafael practiced on the rooftop under the stars. He would close his eyes and imagine thousands cheering. One day, a friend sent him a message, "Bro, you should audition for America's Got Talent." Rafael laughed. He barely had money for rent. America felt impossible. But his mother did something he would never forget. She sold her small gold necklace, her only valuable possession, and handed him the money for a plane ticket. Go, she said, her voice trembling. If you fail, at least you tried. But if you don't go, you'll regret it forever. Weeks later, Raphael stood backstage in California. He wore fitted black pants, polished leather boots, and a white tailored suit jacket with subtle rhinestone detailing along the collar and homage to Elvis but modernized. Underneath was a deep navy shirt slightly open at the chest. His pompadour was flawless. His hands were not. They shook. When he stepped onto the stage, the judges stared. At the center sat Simon Cowell, arms folded. "What's your name?" Simon asked. "Rafael Mendoza. From the Philippines." "And what are you doing here?" Rafael inhaled deeply. "I want to show the world that Elvis's spirit lives everywhere, even in a small barangay in Davao." A few chuckles rippled through the crowd. "And what will you sing?" "If I Can Dream." Simon raised an eyebrow. "That's a big song." The music began softly. The first line came out smooth, controlled, but trembling slightly. Raphael's nerves were obvious. A whisper of doubt flickered across Simon's face. Then came the chorus. Raphael's voice exploded, powerful, soulful, filled with raw emotion. It wasn't an imitation. It was a reinterpretation. His accent was present, his tone unique, his delivery honest. He didn't try to erase where he came from. He embraced it. By the second chorus, the entire theater had gone silent. His movements were subtle, strong posture, confident strides, a sharp turn on the final note, but his face carried something deeper. Years of sacrifice. Nights of rooftop rehearsals. His mother's necklace. His father's tired hands. When he reached the final high note, he held it, not for show, but as if he were pouring his entire life into that single breath. Silence. Then the audience erupted. A standing ovation. Simon slowly stood up too. "Raphael," Simon began, his voice unusually soft, "we've seen many Elvis tributes. Most are karaoke. That was artistry." Raphael's eyes welled with tears. Another judge leaned forward. "You didn't just sing Elvis. You told your story through him." And then it happened. The judge's hand hovered over the golden buzzer. "You came from nothing but belief," she said. "And tonight, you gave us something unforgettable." She pressed it. Gold confetti rained down like sunlight breaking through clouds. Raphael dropped to his knees, hands covering his face, shoulders shaking. Back in Davao, his family and neighbors crowded around a small TV inside the fruit stall. His father, who had never cried in public, wiped his tears openly. His mother whispered, "Salamat, Lord." But success brought new pressure. Headlines called him the Filipino Elvis. Social media debated whether he was copying too much. Expectations grew heavier. In the semifinals, Raphael faced a choice. Play it safe, or risk everything. He chose risk. Instead of another Elvis song, he performed an original ballad blending classic rock style with Filipino lyrics about hope, sacrifice, and chasing dreams beyond oceans. He wore a simple cream-colored suit, hair styled more naturally, less dramatic, showing growth. His voice cracked during one verse when he sang about his mother's necklace. The audience cried. Simon said quietly, "That's not an impersonator. That's a star." Raphael advanced again. By the finals, he wasn't just the Filipino Elvis. He was Rafael Mendoza, an artist who honored a legend but stood firmly in his own identity. During the final moments, he looked into the camera. "To anyone watching from a small town," he said, voice steady, "your dream is not too big. Your world is just waiting to catch up." And that is the heart of this story. A fruit vendor's son from Davao stood on one of the biggest stages in the world and proved that talent doesn't belong to one country, one accent, or one background. If this story moved you even a little, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because somewhere right now, someone is doubting themselves the way Raphael once did. And maybe this story will be the reason they try. Sometimes, the world laughs before it listens. But if you're brave enough to sing anyway, the world might just press the golden buzzer for you. The theater lights were blinding, the crowd buzzing with impatience. A few people whispered, "Another Elvis?" Some laughed outright. But 27-year-old Marco Santos didn't flinch. He stood backstage, palms sweaty, heart racing, knowing this one moment could change everything. Before we jump in, if you believe in the power of dreams, hit that like button and subscribe. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a performance, it's a story that will stay with you long after the screen goes dark. Marco grew up in a tiny fishing village in Palawan, Philippines. He had dark, tousled hair styled in a perfect Elvis-inspired pompadour, warm brown eyes that held both hope and quiet sorrow, and a lean frame hardened from years of hauling nets and walking miles to school. Life was never easy. His father, a fisherman named Rodrigo, worked dawn to dusk on a creaky boat, while his mother, Lila, cleaned houses to make ends meet. Money was scarce, and opportunities scarcer, but Marco had a voice that couldn't be contained. Every evening, he would stand on an overturned crate by the shore, singing Elvis songs to the waves, imagining them clapping, imagining a stage bigger than anything in Palawan. The villagers laughed, the neighborhood kids mimicked him, and even teachers told him to be realistic. Yet he persisted. One day, his younger sister, Maria, handed him a flyer she had secretly printed, "Auditions for America's Got Talent." At first, he laughed. America? That was another world. But Maria had started a small fundraiser online, and the villagers contributed what little they could. His parents pooled their savings. Marco had a ticket to Los Angeles, and a dream that suddenly felt within reach. Backstage at AGT, Marco's nerves threatened to swallow him whole. He wore a black leather jacket over a white shirt, jeans polished by hours of careful brushing, and his hair sculpted meticulously. When the judges called his name, he walked onto the massive stage, blinding lights washing over him. Simon Cowell leaned forward, skeptical as always. "And what's your name?" "Marco Santos, sir." "From the Philippines," he said, voice trembling. "And what will you perform?" "An Elvis Presley song." A ripple of doubt swept through the audience. Simon raised an eyebrow. "Another Elvis." Marco took a deep breath. Then the music began. The first note was soft, almost tentative. But as he reached the chorus, his voice exploded rich, powerful, and layered with emotion. Every ounce of struggle, every night of rooftop singing under starlit skies, every tear shed in his small room, it poured out. The audience went silent, stunned. This wasn't imitation. It was soul. By the final high note, the crowd was on its feet. Simon's expression softened, his usual sharp gaze replaced with genuine awe. Another judge stepped forward, her hand hovering over the golden buzzer. "You came here with nothing but courage," she said. "And you gave us magic." She pressed it. Gold confetti rained down like sunlight breaking through clouds. Marco sank to his knees, overcome with joy, as cameras captured the tearful reaction of his parents watching live from Palawan. But the journey didn't end there. The pressure mounted. Social media debated whether he was just another Elvis, critics scrutinized every move. Marco faced doubt, both internal and external, but he remembered his sister's words, "You were brave enough to sing when no one believed. Keep going." In the semifinals, he performed an original song inspired by his village, blending Filipino lyrics with rock and roll energy. His voice cracked with emotion, telling a story of storms, sacrifice, and hope. The audience wept. Simon said quietly, "This isn't a tribute. This is an artist's heart." Marco advanced to the finals, not just as a performer, but as a symbol of perseverance. When he looked into the camera in the final episode, Marco spoke directly to viewers worldwide. "No matter where you come from, no matter how small your chances seem, never let anyone tell you your dream is too big. Believe in yourself first." And that's the heart of Marco's story. A boy from a tiny fishing village, laughed at, underestimated, and doubted, stood on one of the world's biggest stages and reminded millions that dreams are stronger than fear. If this story moved you even a little, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Because somewhere tonight, another dreamer is standing on the edge of possibility, and they need to hear that it's worth taking that step. Sometimes, the world laughs before it listens. But if you have the courage to sing anyway, it might just press the golden buzzer for you.